All right. Hello, my fellow freedom fighter girlies. Welcome back to another episode of Freedom Over Fear. It's Francesca. We are back in the studio with the pink lights. I have a new guest today. Her name is Lexi. She is a Gen Z conservative teacher, okay, which is very rare today. Lots of teachers these days are not as conservative, or maybe they just don't speak out, but she speaks out and she's kind of here, and we're going to talk about everything teaching. So Lexi, welcome to Freedom Over Here.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So you are a teacher, so just kind of go into like what you do, like day to day.
Yeah, so I am a virtual academy teacher. Now, a lot of people might be wondering, what the heck is that? Well, it's something that became very big post-pandemic. So obviously, a lot of kiddos were virtual during COVID. And my school is a charter school. We are a public charter school, and we specialize in personal learning academy, which is very similar to a homeschool-based schooling. And then we also offer a virtual academy, which is what I am directly a part of. I'm a second grade teacher, and I live teach 3 days a week, and Mondays and Fridays are considered asynchronous days for my kiddos. So what that means is I assign them work, and they're working really closely with their parents, actually, on their curriculum.
Interesting.
Yeah, and really bonding over it. And we have a very strong parent-teacher relationship because we have to. Our kiddos are home-based. They're joining on Zoom like what we are doing right now. And their parents are required to, one parent or an adult that is approved by us has to be sitting there with them, interacting them while we're in school to make sure that they're focused. And it's a really great partnership, and we see a lot of growth at our school, which is why I love it so much.
Yeah, that sounds really good. So you are a virtual teacher, so you're online. Why did you choose that over like an in-classroom base teaching?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. So I actually wasn't going to be a teacher once COVID happened. I got really scared and nervous, just kind of with everything going on, right? We had the pandemic, and we had this really big shift in our society that was very uneasy. And I got really nervous. And my mom even asked me if I still wanted to do it. And I wasn't sure. My mom's been a teacher for over 20 years. And I just kind of went on EdJoin, and I came across this school, and I'll be honest, I didn't even fully read the parameters of the job. I just applied.
No one in Gen Z reads. We just sign things.
Right? We just signed things. It said virtual, and I was like, okay, I'm applying, get a job right away. Cause I also graduated during 2020. So the credentialing process got put on hold. All of us, 2020 graduates from college were like, okay, well, what do we do now? Like, there wasn't really anything out there. And so I ended up getting into this position, and I fell in love with it. Even though we are a virtual school, mm-hmm. I have never been a part of such a strong community of educators and parents.
Yeah.
And the students are committed, they are driven, and even more so, their parents are instilling that in them. And for parents to openly come out to you as an educator and ask, like, what can I do? Like, what do I need to do? Is there anything my child can do? There's just a really strong bond there. And I just kind of fell in love with the community that we were able to create on a virtual basis that a lot of people didn't get to experience during COVID.
Yeah. So you're saying that parents are actually involved.
Oh, yeah.
That is interesting.
Heavily involved. And I do want to share, too. So with our school, we have this thing called a master agreement. And the child, the parent, and the teacher all sign this. It's a legal binding document. And it's stating my responsibility as an educator, your student's responsibility as a student, and your responsibility as a parent.
Yeah.
You as a parent are committing to making sure that the day-to-day work is being completed, turned in, and that you are effectively communicating not only with your child, but with the educator as well. So everybody has clear job descriptions.
Yeah.
We sign on it, and we go based off of that every single day.
That is just crazy, especially, I mean, I don't have kids, so I don't hear too much, but I do have some friends that have kids. So hearing, and most of them are in public schools, so hearing what you're saying and hearing what they say are very different.
Yeah.
So would you say that's just because they're in public school, it's just different?
It's definitely a different community.
Yeah.
I grew up in a public school, like I'm sure you did too, in the normal like brick and mortar, right?
Yeah.
Where we're going to school Monday through Friday. We don't see our parents from, what was it, like 8 until like 2 or 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then a grandparent or parent picks us up. We go home and go about our day. When you're in the virtual academy, you're required to have this type of relationship In public schools, educators are not being backed. They're
Right.
having to put way too much emphasis on behavioral problems because they aren't getting corrected at home, or they're not getting corrected by admin. And
Yeah.
admin's just doing a slap on the wrist nowadays, and there's no punishment.
Yeah.
There's no detention. There's no repercussions for actions. And I think a lot of parents and students and educators are getting really burnt out, the ones that are dedicated and driven towards their education. And there's just no camaraderie. There's no relationship building between the educators, the parents, the admin, the students. It's just in disarray, was what it feels like.
Yeah, which is crazy. And I know we were kind of chatting earlier. Tell us the stat of teachers that are either dropping out post COVID and all of that you kind of said.
Yeah. So I have done, for the past 2 years, I've kind of done a little bit of research on the teacher pandemic, I guess you could say. Now, there's been a 16% decrease in new credentialing teachers from 2022 to 2023. We don't have the stats for 2024 just yet, obviously, because the year hasn't ended. But post-pandemic, so we're talking, maybe 2-3 years now, I guess we can consider post-pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
have 500,000 fewer educators.
That's crazy. That is a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing a lot more combo classes. And we talked about earlier too, how combo classes were more so of a thing when they were pink slipping teachers, which is actually something my mom experienced. She had a combo class at one point. Well, now there's combo classes because there's not enough teachers, because people don't want to teach. They don't want to. It's a tiring, grueling job, especially when you're not being supported by your administration, because their hands are tied as much as your hands are tied.
Right. It's like you can't really blame them too much. Yeah. They have to answer to somebody.
Yeah. There's a lot of nervousness and just uncertainty on your job security, because you do one thing that, someone higher up doesn't like, and you might not have a job tomorrow, or you're asked to leave and resign.
Right. Right. It's so crazy. And it scares me a little bit because I want to have kids, and now I have to make a lot of money to send them to a nice school.
Right? Yeah.
Oh gosh. Anyways, so we know that you're more conservative, obviously, which, like I said, is a little bit more rare, especially being like a Gen Z girl. Tell us how you got here with your beliefs. Did any life experience, or did you just kind of always believe this?
Yeah, I kind of grew up in a household where we love Jesus, we pray, we are Christian, but it was never really forced onto us. We were definitely raised to think for ourselves, form our own opinions, make sure our opinions are based off of facts that we've read, and kind of weighed the pros and cons of what you would call maybe both sides. So I just kind of, as I got older, I really, fell in love with Jesus. I released all my sins to him, and I got baptized, and my faith just grew stronger. And I started to know over the last, I would say maybe 8 years, Christianity just started to fall in line with conservative beliefs. And
which sometimes people don't like to say. So interesting that you're saying that.
Yeah. So I just kind of felt like that's where I was going. And then I started to do a little bit more digging, and I just kind of felt like decent morals and values were only in line with conservatives. That's my own opinion, but I just kind of felt like proper morals and values and just being a good, kind human is the only way I could go with being a conservative. And
You're saying some controversial things.
I am. I know. And some people,
Are you saying that lefts are evil? No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
The whole Olympic story, but
oh my God, I know. That was really something.
That was hard to watch.
Yeah, it is. It's just kind of sad. I don't know. It's really sad that they even have to put that into sports. Can we just not, and can we just watch the athletes that have trained so hard to be there? I also thought did the athletes know that was going to be the opening ceremony? I'm wondering if they would have been hey, I'm not going to participate in this. I don't want to be involved with that. I'm kind of wondering if they knew. Not to get off topic, but
I was wondering that too, actually.
Yeah.
And that actually kind of just bleeds into the fact too of do parents know what's going on in the school system?
right.
athletes know what was going on the ceremonies. It's just a very interesting. It just feels like propaganda for the higher ups, the ones that are called.
Everything nowadays is fear mongering and propaganda. And 100%. That's why you said that your philosophy as a teacher, you want to teach critical thinking, which I think is really good because nobody really has that anymore. It's very rare to be a critical thinker and be like a little skeptical about things. Yeah.
Be your own investigator. Be your own investigator is the biggest thing that I can say for everyone.
Yeah. I'd like to ask a even more controversial question, which this kind of came up, I would say maybe a few years ago. I don't know if it's like as controversial anymore. And I know that you're virtual, so I don't know if it necessarily applies to you as much, but I'm sure you have like more friends that are in the classroom. Do you think teachers should have guns?
So this is actually something that I've had a conversation with a lot of people about, including my mom, because my mom is in a normal classroom.
Yeah.
And it's been, like you said, I feel like it has kind of been this like hot topic for years and years.
I feel like it kind of just like all of a sudden went away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for us to just come to terms with the fact that no law will ever keep an evil person doing evil things.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I 100% believe that if our educators are not allowed to carry out their Second Amendment in a right and like safe and secure manner, there needs to be an armed guard or some type of trained guard on site every single school building from the time that teachers get there until the time that teachers leave, because they are just as important as students. And I'm not really sure why that hasn't happened. Because,
I would say that's a good compromise. Yeah.
I think so. And I think it's very tangible for us to do it as taxpayers at the end of the day.
Well,
if you want to tax me more for that reason, I'm okay with it. Totally.
You know what I say about taxes? I wish I got like a receipt at the end of the year. Like, hey, this is what you paid for. I'd be like, okay, I could do that.
I'm like, because I always say, we pay ourselves. As a teacher paying taxes, I'm paying myself.
That's actually really funny. I didn't even think of that. That's really, that's funny. Okay, so you're saying more of like an armed guard situation.
Yeah, if I can see as a parent, possibly, if there's a student that has an agenda and it wasn't properly set off there, and somehow, some way, a student got the hands of a gun in a safe or some other way, I can see that argument. I really can. So my argument then would be, my compromise, when you at least need to put an armed guard or a retired police officer, somebody there to ensure that if parents choose to send their child to a public brick and mortar, they should not have to worry about whether or not their child is going to come home to them.
Yeah. Would you say that's a concern these days? Like, do parents think that?
I would. Yeah, 100%. Because I even for a while was nervous just about my mom coming home. My mom's an educator. And, again, you can never stop evil people from doing evil things. And my mom has experienced some disgruntled parents at one point in time. And it's a scary thing to witness, especially when it's word format and people are emailing you certain things and going to, administrations and the district and saying things. And it's definitely, for me, especially as a daughter of a teacher in that, it's a worry for me. And then I can't imagine what some other parents have gone through, especially with schools that have already experienced shutdowns and gun violence.
Yeah, it is. It's a scary world. But I guess, like you were saying, you can't really be scared. Evil people are always going to do evil things. You gotta believe in Jesus at that point.
100%.
So kind of going back to like the curriculum and everything that you're doing. And I know that at your school, parents seem to be more involved in the curriculum. And you might have some experience just because your mom is a teacher or was a teacher. Do you think parents should be more involved in the curriculum? Do you think that the current curriculum is more like right or left leaning? What would you say?
I think it's really going towards like if parents should be involved in curriculum. I think it's really important that parents are educating themselves on state standards, national standards, what milestones your child should be meeting at each grade level. And then if you have questions, I think that as a parent, you should just ask your teacher, your student's teacher, create that relationship with them so that you clearly understand what is expected of you as a parent, what is expected of your child, and then voice concerns as well. No matter what, a parent's concerns should always be taken seriously, no matter what, to ensure that we are creating a safe and prosperous environment for their child.
Yeah.
I also am a firm believer, and this is where it might get a little controversial too. I don't think politics have any place in education at all. I think at the end of the day, we as educators are responsible for teaching your student life skills. They need to understand how to add numbers. They need to know biology, science, history, language arts. They need to know how to read and write. That is my job. My job is not to push any political agenda. Now, with that being said, going to the argument is curriculum left or right, I think it's really dependent on the school district and the state as well. And I truly believe that students know exactly what they want to learn and how they want to learn. And I think we should also take that into consideration. We've all learned to communicate, right? We all know how to communicate. Now, I think it's really important for us to teach our students how to think, right? That there's a big difference between learning and thinking. And I feel like no matter what we say about curriculum, we've kind of strayed away from that. And I want my students to be able to tell me why they did a certain addition problem, why they used a certain strategy. Give me a reason why you chose that strategy. Why was that the best strategy? And give me your critical thinking skills. I want to see it, because then as you get older, you're able to form your own opinions. And that's where we get this really great representative democracy that we're supposed to have, right?
So like these kids that you're teaching, I know you're teaching second grade, these are like the future leaders of our country. So if you don't teach critical thinking, or even like at home, let me go back actually. Do you think parents just don't care about their kids' education anymore? Do you think that they're just so involved with like making money in their own life that they're just like, the teacher got it. Like, I don't really.
I think there's two distinct groups. And also, I think, unfortunately, we have to look even deeper into that and look at our economy. Parents, I feel like, are so overwhelmed with the amount of money that they are having to push out for groceries, for rent, for a mortgage, car payments, insurance. There is so many different factors that parents are having to worry about. And I don't blame them if their child's education is one of those things where like, gosh, I hope the teacher is handling this because I can't take one more thing on my plate. And I am so empathetic towards that because I don't know how my mom did it. My mom was a working mom, and she was taking care of me and my brother. And she was a teacher. So like she's teaching all these children plus her own. It's a lot of work. And so I feel like there are two very different groups. There, at the end of the day, there are some parents that aren't as involved as others, and they're not as involved as they should be. But then you also go into thinking of, are they able to be involved?
Right.
You know, what are we doing as a society to ensure that these parents have the time to be involved with their students' academics and ensure that they're getting the education that they deserve?
Yeah, it's kind of like a vicious cycle, honestly, and it all ties in together, which is crazy.
All of it. Yeah.
So I'd like to go into a little bit more of a political topic and talk about AB 1955, which some people call the Safety Act, which is literally so funny to me because I didn't even know people call it this, but they do. And it's like the opposite of safety. So I don't know what world they're calling safe. And let me just like read kind of what the bill is, just for people that don't know. Assembly Bill 1955, it prevents educators from being required to disclose information related to students' sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression to the students' parents. So it like in a nutshell, it's pretty much just like stripping parental rights away is kind of how I would say. And for those of you that might live under a rock, this has been in plan for like years. So this didn't just happen all of a sudden. And this was signed, this is California. So it was signed by Mr. Gavin Newsom of this year. So now that you're going to transition, go back to school, what are your thoughts on AB 1955? And do you think it's really that serious? Do you think like schools will fight it? Like, what do you think?
So I would like to say that Chino Unified School District is actually going into a suit with the governor on this, and I actually attended that school district from kindergarten
Oh
all the
my
way.
gosh.
So I have two takes on this. This is a very, I guess we could say, sensitive topic, and the fact that you called it the Safety Act is exactly.
I read that and I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I called it the Secrecy Act because I'm like, are we already teaching children to keep secrets at this point? So
Yeah.
I have two takes on it. I have it as my professional educator take on it, and then as just as a future mother, hopefully a future conservative, mother. My first take as an educator is it's my responsibility to be observant of my students.
Mm-hmm.
It is my responsibility to observe their behaviors emotionally and physically. Children who feel safe in the school setting often thrive, right? They want to learn, they're excited to go to school. Now, in my experience, children who are displaying erratic behaviors or who display a very quick change in behavior, that's where there might be some type of challenge they might be facing. Now, whether that challenge is home-based or school-based, or a possible intellectual disability, that is something that needs to be discussed with parents and the entire education team that's a part of that student's file. And this is where we need to be open and honest with parents, and we hope that parents are open and honest with us so that we can get to the bottom of what might be going on. And it is noted that when a student changes their pronouns and changes their names, there is a possibility of something going on.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to take note of that and not keep secrets, because it feels like we're keeping secrets from parents when a child all of a sudden changes their pronouns and their name. We have to make sure that we are supporting the child in school and that there's proper support and effective support for them at home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at my personal take, so if I were to have a child, my child would be raised in the Christian faith. They would be raised that there is men and there is women, and God does not make mistakes. And if my child were to go to school and request that their pronouns be changed, request that their name would be changed, I would want to know about it, because personally, I was a big tomboy when I was a kid, and I want to know if it's just a phase that they might be going through, or if there is an underlying factor that needs to be addressed, such as, is something being taught in school that I'm unaware of? Is there a child that is teaching my child something that I don't agree with? There needs to be a line of communication. And when we say, oh, teachers, don't worry about it, there's an issue with this student, they change their pronouns out of nowhere, they change their name out of nowhere, we don't need to discuss it with the parents. That's a little concerning, and it kind of feels like we are setting up this barrier, this wall between educators and teachers, or educators and parents, and there already is such a big wall.
Right.
And it's just, I feel like we're going to get into this very vicious cycle where it's not going to be helpful for the student, and that's our priority. As an educator, that's my priority, and as a parent, I hope their child would be their priority, and that open line of communication is very necessary, and that act is detrimental to that open line of education, that open line of communication. Yeah.
Do you see this going anywhere, to other states as well? I don't know if it's in other states, but
I know a few states have shot down. I don't know the exact states, but I know a few states have already shot down, this is not happening.
Yeah.
But then there's also states, particularly more so blue states, that are talking more about this. And I just want people to understand that this is, as an educator, this is a very detrimental act to students and their safety and their ability to effectively engage in a classroom. If there's a problem, we need to address it. And we need to make sure that we're there to support the child in any way, shape, or form we possibly can.
Yeah.
If we're just kind of ignoring these things, and these are big things for a minor.
This is big.
Yeah, for a minor to say, I don't want to be a girl anymore, I want to be a boy, that's a very big thing. And it's a very finite decision if they go and try and actually transition. And we need them to understand that once you do these things, you can't revert them. There are finite consequences to this, and we need to make sure that they are aware of that, if that is the route they take.
Do you see students, at what age do you see them start questioning this? I'm going to be really sad if it's young.
It's young. It's very.
Jeez.
So as a master's student, I had to do a study on this, and there was a documentary with a girl as young as 5 years old.
Oh my God, it's like kindergarten. Does she even know how to count to 10?
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
this
God.
was in a. I will say this, that particular study that I did was from Britain, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. It's everywhere. Yeah.
It's everywhere, and second grade is kind of when I started to notice that my students are kind of getting their personalities and they're learning who they are. And so I really want to challenge, those who are in agreement with an act like this. And I want them to ask themselves, like, I wonder what I was like at that age.
Mm-hmm.
What did I like at that age? Am I like that now? I was that girl wearing Dickies and DCs and Monster Energy shirts in second grade, and my mom would beg me to wear a dress. Like,
Could you imagine though? Yeah.
Can you imagine my mom saw that and she goes, "Oh, she wants to be a boy. Let's start doing
oh my God, that's
hormones." Crazy. No, I absolutely not.
I know. I had a friend like that too, and I like joked with her to this day. I'm like, could you imagine if that happened to you? It's crazy.
Yeah. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah. So it's not just California. Like people always say like, oh, everything bad happens here, but it kind of just happens everywhere, which is sad. Yeah. Okay. Well, enough of the sadness. So the podcast is kind of geared like towards the younger female Gen Z audience. So, I could assume like some viewers have kids and some maybe don't have kids, but we're kind of like getting in. That's why AB 1955, I'm like, I don't know why people don't, or kids like us, like we're not really a kid anymore. Like we're to the age that we could have our own children. So I don't know why people don't talk about this more often and bring it up in just their normal conversation, but that's besides the point. What advice, since you are a teacher, like what advice would you give to younger parents sending their kids to school? Like, would you tell them you should go private, you should go public, you should homeschool? Like, what kind of would you say?
There's pros to cons to both. And at the end of the day, and this is something that we really focus on at my particular school, is we want you to make the best decision for your family, for your morals and beliefs, for what you stand for. You have to do your own research at the end of the day and decide what's going to be best for your own family. I went to public school my entire life, from kindergarten all the way through high school. My mom's been an educator in a normal brick and mortar for over 20 years. And I have to say, my personal preference, once my husband and I do have a child, we've already made the decision that we are not sending them to public school. And private school is a very possible option, but we're more geared toward having them engage in what I'm doing, which is a virtual academy 3 days a week.
And you just be like more hands-on the other days or whatever.
Yeah, we would just be more hands-on and to kind of give comfort to parents who might be unsure. There's a lot of uncertainty in the public school system. Educators are not backed as they once were. When I was a kid, if you were to chew gum, you were getting detention.
Yeah.
And you're getting sent to the office. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
But, now my mom had a student throw something at her, and there was no real repercussions. There was no real consequences. And it was more so of a slap on the wrist. Let's do gentle parenting talk, essentially. That doesn't work. And I'm not really sure when that idea is going to leave. Gentle parenting might work for some, but it does not work for those.
I don't think it works for anybody.
We're trying to be open-minded sometimes, right? But yeah, I'm just, the lack of security, the lack of safety, it's feels like it's a more so leftist agenda at the end of the day. In my opinion, if I were to be a parent, it would feel like a leftist agenda if I were to send my student to my own child to a brick and mortar school. Private schools are something that you just have to research yourself. And it is highly dependent on where your private school is located.
Right.
What kind of requirements do they require their teachers to have? There's just so many factors, right? So I just always encourage parents, do your research. At the end of the day, do what fits best for your family. Home-based schooling is a lot more tangible, and that's why I am so proud to be a part of it. And I just really try to share what I do with as many parents as I possibly can, so that
because I don't think a lot of people know that that's even an option.
Oh, they don't.
I mean, I'm not in like that mindset to go and start researching, because I'm not near that yet, but I don't think that a lot of people know that's an option.
And when we were kids, it was kind of a taboo thing, right? Like,
yeah, you're like weird. Yeah. Do you even have friends? Do you know how to talk?
Yeah. They think that you're introverted and that you don't know how to socialize. Let me tell you, my students are probably the most social butterflies I have ever met. You see them on screen when we go on our field trips, because we go on field trips once a month. They are so excited to see you. They run up. They have all ages from TK all the way to high school. Those kids are excited to see their friends, excited to see their teachers, excited to interact with one another.
Yeah.
And I want parents to know that if you pick the right school that fits your needs, your student will flourish. And if it's something tangible for your family, where one parent works from home, it's just, I have second graders that are turning in work on themselves. You know, they're learning technology very, very early on, because you kind of have to in this day and age, unfortunately, but it's possible. And I want parents to know that a brick and mortar or a private in-person school doesn't have to be your final answer if you don't want it to be. You can figure out a way to make it work.
There's other options, which I think, some people just don't know. But so we're in the midst, obviously, of an election year. And if you're like an avid user of social media, which most of us really are, you're getting just wrecked, I feel like, on like things that we're seeing on our feed is just more of like a leftist agenda, which is just crazy. And I know we kind of talked about critical thinking and how we kind of said some people just don't have that anymore. And maybe that is from them going to a more public school, or maybe that is from, I don't know, their personality just not being a critical thinker. With that being said, do you think that as like a Gen Z that is obviously leaning more conservative, what are like some qualities and priorities that you're looking for, like when you go to vote this year?
So my personal opinion would be a patriot. I'm looking for someone that's a patriot for this country, that loves the men and women that serve our country, that supports the men and women that serve our country. Because at the end of the day, me and you wouldn't be able to share our ideas if it wasn't for them. And I feel like they've been forgotten, and it really hurts my heart, especially with having family members that served. And then just driving down the street, like if you've been to downtown San Diego recently, there's a lot of veterans with their hats on that are living in tents. And that's just something that wrecks me every time. And I want someone that's going to take care of them. I want someone to use our thousands, millions of dollars of taxpayer money that we have to help them and to make sure that they are taken care of. And not only that, but someone who's willing to fight for small businesses and American families. Not everybody can make six figures. Not everybody has the ability to purchase a home. And that is 100% due to our economy. And our economy is in the tank. Whether you want to come to terms with that or not, let me tell you, as someone that just bought a home last year, it's bad. And it's not fair to the up and coming generations. And I just want someone that's honest with us and will fight for us. And I am a firm believer that the only person right now that is up for that job is President Trump. 100%.
It's funny that you say that, because I just watched a video this morning talking about social media and how we just get wrecked. Like, and I say critical thinking because a lot of people that use social media are like our age, more Gen Z, and they see it and they believe it, like what we were saying earlier. So I was watching this video of this girl that's probably our age, and you're saying that the economy is tanked. She agrees that the economy is tanked, and she agrees that, because we have one of two options right now, she agrees that Trump would fix the economy, but she hates him so much that she would rather pick somebody else because she agrees with the other person's social issues. She agrees that the economy is so bad, and she agrees that Trump can fix it, but she just chooses to hate him and his personality so much that she would vote for something. Like, how? I don't get it. How is that?
That's where I think exactly what you said, the critical thinking part. My question to that female would be, why do you dislike him? Please give me a reason of why you dislike him. And if it's just personality based, if it's the whole mean tweets era because you don't like them, because at the end of the day, I'm sorry, I will go out and say, I don't like everything that Trump says, but guess what?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to, and no one's perfect.
No, and he is a businessman. He is not a politician. A politician knows what to say for you to love them. A businessman is going to tell you how it is. And that's why he's been successful. And people need to understand that.
Yeah.
And for someone to strictly say, I don't like someone just because of their personality, fine. But let me tell you, I may not like everything that Trump has to say verbally and maybe the way he says certain things. But I can tell you right now, I look at his policies, I look at what he stands for, I look at what his family stands for, and how his family interacts with one another and how they interact with other people, especially those who disagree with them. And I love that. And that's how I want my family to be in the future. Yeah. And I would be just so proud to vote for him, say I vote for him, and embody everything that he stands for, because at the end of the day, that is what an American is all about. Yeah.
It's just sad. Like, I see those videos a lot of people our age just kind of trashing his personality. But it's funny because I'm like, his personality has nothing to do with this. Like, is he going to fix America or not? Like, it's really simple as that. But it's like people's priorities. Like, your priorities seem to line up with him more, and I don't know, that girl's priorities were just all over the board. I just don't even think she knows what she's talking about. But that's another thing.
Informing ourselves, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are not properly informing themselves of all the facts.
Yeah. And I find that it's more women that I see talking about that. So kind of going into that, there is a stat that kind of shows that young men tend to lean more conservative than young women. To this day, I'm trying to figure out why. So I always ask my guests, like, why do you think that is? Like, why are young females so turned off by the conservative movement? I get a lot of answers like, oh, it's women's rights. That's really actually all I get. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know if they think conservative women are like weird. I don't know what it is. But what do you think?
I think it goes a lot deeper into society. I think it has to do with this whole we talked about a little of social media, this whole corporate girly thing, this whole boss babe movement.
Yeah.
Being a mom and a homemaker is not considered a real job. Why? I'm not really sure.
If you were to add up like everything a mom does, my mom did this once. You add up the cleaning, the cooking, you're like a chef, you're like all these things. If you add it up, it's like somebody's salary.
Oh, 100. I would almost, and your mom probably would agree with this too. I would argue that it's more. It's probably more than what I'm getting.
Yeah. No, it's more. I don't remember how much it was, but a nanny, a cleaner, just like crazy.
Yeah. You're a nurse, from a cook to a private chef. You're cleaning, you're running the kids all over the place, on top of also probably working, because in today's day and age in the economy, it's kind of hard to be a stay-at-home mom. And I remember as a kid, and maybe you experienced something similar, it was like a taboo thing to have a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah, it was. I think my mom was a stay-at-home mom, so she could probably say this too, but I think other moms kind of look down on her and like, oh, you're a stay-at-home mom. Maybe they were jealous. I'm sure they were jealous, honestly.
Yeah, that's probably,
That's probably why they were rude.
But I feel like it's probably a jealousy factor for sure. And then for sure, looking down on them. Like, I have a degree, I have a job.
Yeah.
What do you, you stay at home. Raising kids, I see so many of my friends do it, and it is a lot of work. I know that I was a lot of work growing up as well. So my mom did it with 2 kids, and she worked full time. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. And I think we have done a really disservice to women in society. Women's rights, of course, we love them. I'm glad we can vote. But I also want us to lean into the fact that God created us to be homemakers. He created us to bear the children and to take care of the home. And there is literally a reason why, and we could get into a whole nother topic of why women are more prone to getting concussions than men, because our bodies are built differently.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, we were built for different things. And I'm not really sure why so many women are a lot of women are complaining about burnout, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, then tell me why you're wanting to work this 9 to 5 for the rest of your life, from the time that you were probably 22 until you were 63,
Mm-hmm.
and you plan on doing that and having children. Well, I'm sorry, but it is true. Having a career and having children is hard. It is a lot of work. And the reason why you are so tired and you probably have hormonal imbalances is because you're not being able to take care of yourself while also running your home.
Yeah.
It's just,
yeah. I have friends that are like very into the boss babe movement, and they've weaned off it a little bit, but they're still in there, and they still think it's like the best thing. And I always ask, like, I just don't know why you look down on someone that just chooses to want to be at home. I don't know, like, do you want to I think honestly they feel what's the word? Oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. But they feel like them making money fuels their like that's just what they're passionate about. Maybe they're just not in the mindset of like wanting to be a mom, and like that's what, I don't know. I just don't know what it is.
It's just really interesting. I think the Charlie Kirk show. Have you watched that? I think his name's Charlie Kirk, right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay, so Charlie was talking about this once, and I was trying to understand like the statistics he was giving, and he's talking about there has never been such a smaller percentage of young men and women getting married and having children than right now. Yeah. And so then I start to think about like, well, why is that? And I think it's women kind of being pushed to be these boss babes, to be in these top tier positions, which is amazing. And I love that for some of them, that if that's their dream, amazing.
It fulfills, that's the word, damn it. It fulfills them. They get fulfilled by being like working and making money.
Yeah. And if that work does it for you, I'm so happy for you. I love that for you. But then I also want to talk about the fact that that one football player, I forgot his name, that delivered that speech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with women wanting to just stay home. And I feel like that's where this comes in, where women are straying away from being conservative because they're scared of being judged for not wanting to have a career. If you get your degree, awesome. I'm glad you have a degree to fall back on if you need to do something else. But if you can stay home and that's what you want to do, you want to raise your babies, there is nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And it is okay to be proud of that. And it is okay to make bread from scratch. And it is okay to make dinner every night.
Like Ballerina Farms.
I do it. Yeah, I love her.
Yeah, she's so cool. But people don't think that's cool. They think
they don't.
Yeah. Actually, Charlie, he pushes really hard, like young people getting married. The only thing I would say to that is, and maybe why, is because it's expensive. But I mean, people make it work. Don't get me wrong, but it is just a lot. And maybe he just doesn't think of that. I don't know.
What do you think is expensive?
I just think having kids is expensive, and doing all of that and having a home and like all of that. And if you're not financially there, it's just kind of tough to make it work. And then you kind of have to struggle. But I mean, people do it all the time. So I can't really use that as an excuse, because I see people do it a lot.
I think that's a great point though, because we look at our economy, and I think for sure the reason why less people are getting married and having children is also because everything is so expensive.
Yeah, there's just a circle.
There's so many factors throwing into this that it's hard to pinpoint just one thing. I feel like it's all of these things.
It's just a mess.
Yeah.
We need to save now. We need Jesus to just come back.
Jesus.
Oh gosh. But to kind of wrap up things, I always ask guests if they had just 5 minutes with a first-time female voter. Like we said, it's an election year, if you don't know that. What would you tell her? I
would tell her to not be afraid to think what she thinks. And that's as just conduct your own research and
think for yourself.
Don't be afraid to believe what you believe. And I think that's something that we can stray away from too, is sometimes we get so caught up in what we believe that we forget that there are other beliefs out there. And that's what makes us a representative democracy, right? We want these differing opinions and thoughts, because that's how we come to a sometimes happy compromise. So So I think just making sure that she's not afraid to believe that whatever she believes in, and to do her own research, form her own opinions. And if she doesn't want to share it with people, that's okay.
Yeah, it is. It is okay. You don't have to really stand too much up. A little bit, though.
Not a little bit. A little bit goes a long way.
Yeah, maybe not. Don't let social media sway you, because that happens a lot. Forming your own. Yeah, I think that's really good. Any other final thoughts that you would like to share?
Keep on doing your podcast, please.
Thanks. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story, your thoughts, your heart with us today. It was really awesome to have you on and all your ideas.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This episode could not function without the Red Angelus Network, so please check them out at redangelus.com. And don't forget, let's make girls girly again.